what is the Cambridge program? And really, it's an integrated curriculum, and it's an assessment model that was developed by the University of Cambridge. So what you need to know is that when we say integrated curriculum, we're talking about a curriculum where the assessments and the teaching and learning are all thought out and all integrated together, and there is developed from an international scale. So you're in good company. This curriculum is followed by more than 10,000 schools around the world, and it's available in 160 countries, and it's continuing to grow in the United States. In fact, I want to say California is one of the biggest areas where it's starting to grow, and is continuing to grow even here in Arizona. So we're happy to have it and have partnered with Cambridge, and they're doing some really neat things in the state of Arizona. One of the mantras from Cambridge, and we took this directly from their website that they push out for communications, is their goal is to prepare students for life. And I know that gets said a lot, but really we want to help students develop an informed curiosity and a passion for learning. It's not just taking them through classes, it's hopefully helping them develop an interest and a passion for some subjects, if not all, and overall the idea of learning and what that can do for them. So informed curiosity and wanting to make sure that they are prepared for life after high school. And to do that, really, if you walk into a Cambridge classroom, you're going to see a poster with these learner attributes, because at the end of the day, this is what we're trying to develop. If you wanted to see what a Cambridge student looks like, sounds like, this is when they finish our program, what we're hoping to develop. And these 5 attributes are our way of recognizing that students need to develop attitudes and life skills throughout their education. They also, on top of their academic skills, if they're going to be successful in the workforce and they're going to be successful at university or wherever their place of employment is, we can agree, I think, that it's going to be important that they are confident in how they deal with information that they come up with themselves, and also that they take in from other folks. That they need to be responsible for what it is that they say and how to respect others. And these are things that we will actually practice in the classrooms. So again, they're not just posted on the wall for window dressing. They're things that we try to embed and weave through to help our students develop these traits. We want our students to be reflective and to think about how they learn. So this is that metacognitive process of how do I learn best, and how do I continue to develop my ability to learn. That learning is a dynamic process and it's not static at any given time. And of course, that the students will be engaged, certainly in the content, intellectually, but also with what's going on around them, that they are informed and ready to make a difference in whatever way they see fit. And again, these are the attributes that we're trying to develop in our students. So a couple highlights, a couple things I've touched on already is that, yes, it is an international curriculum. And when we are comparing ourselves, we're not just comparing ourselves with the state of Arizona or the United States, we're comparing ourselves to those 160 schools around the world and their top students to see where we stack up on that global scale for those that take the international course. If you come to Willow Canyon and you want to take an honors course, Cambridge is your only option for your freshman and sophomore year. We've gone all in with that, and we believe that the product that we've developed and are continuing to develop and refine has really set our students up after their 10th grade year to have some great opportunities that await them. Some families are curious. They know that their student is strong in 1 or 2 subject areas, but maybe they're not clear that, or they're not confident that their student is ready to take on a full course load of Cambridge in an honors fashion. So we do offer an a la carte selection of courses, and you could do this as you do your course selection with your counselor. If, for example, a student might be strong in math and really wants to challenge themselves in math and take a Cambridge course in math, but maybe history isn't their strong suit, they would have the opportunity to take a Cambridge course in one area and take maybe one of our normal course offerings for freshmen history or whatever in the other way. We also, a misnomer that we get a lot is that, if you do Cambridge, it's all you can do. You're going to be inundated with homework and you're not going to be able to do anything beyond just hours and hours of homework. And I want to let you know that in almost every course that we offer, that pretty much students are given time in class to complete those learning activities. And if there's a carryover from that, then sometimes they will have homework, but we don't believe or practice that we're just going to throw loads of homework on kids. We realize that part of what colleges are looking for are these well-balanced students who are also involved in extracurriculars and athletics and those kinds of things. And some of our finest students in the past have been 3-sport athletes or have been driven and involved with multiple clubs on campus. So that is something that not only we allow, but we encourage for our Cambridge students to be involved with. We, of course, academic rigor, we believe that this is college and career readiness. We are preparing, high school is not the end of the line for these kids. We want to prepare them to be successful in whatever their endeavors are as they move on into their career or into university or college. And there are multiple pathways after 10th grade, which we will be getting into, but this is just kind of an intro to those things. So I mentioned a lot about getting students prepared for the future. And the question is, well, how is it that we do that? Well, what is it that we do? So in Cambridge, students develop higher order thinking skills, and it's about the depth of their thinking and really how they can apply what they've learned. So rather than just going through and checking off tasks, we're really interested for students to be able to solve problems creatively. And as I go through this quick list, I hope that you will think about really what does it take for a student or for an individual involved in an organization to do well. If they are to go off to university, what are the characteristics that they're going to need to exhibit in order to thrive wherever they go? And one of those is to be able to solve problems creatively and approach them from different angles. We also want them to be confident enough in their ability to think for themselves. Then this is part of being that reflective learner and also being confident in dealing with information. So we want them to take things and not just take things at face value, but think about the implications of what they're learning or the messages that they're receiving. And of course, we want them to be able to collaborate on projects, not just the ones that are assigned, but projects at times that they design themselves. And we think that if students are developing these kinds of life skills, that they're going to be better prepared when they leave Willow Canyon and they go off either into the workforce or college or otherwise. And so one example of this, and this is, I had the fortune of teaching in the American history course. And one of the things that we do in that course and also other courses is something called coursework. What that is students are given a general prompt, and how they answer that prompt and how they go about demonstrating their understanding is entirely up to them. In fact, by Cambridge's design, the teacher can have very little input into the product that they put out. And then we take those and we send them off to Cambridge to verify the quality of the work of the students made. Many students have used these to put into their college portfolios because what they're actually doing is they're doing active field research. In this case, what you'll see on the picture is that these students went to the Phoenix Indian School. And one of the questions was, what is the historical significance of the site? They had to make decisions based on evidence of primary sources, as well as their own observations of visiting the site to answer that question in a 14 to 1600 word essay. And that really was their mark, and how they answered it and to what extent they answered it determined the quality of their response. And again, that's just one of the many ways that students kind of get a hands-on approach to really develop their own practice and how they go about showing their proficiency. And again, as we're talking about forward thinking, we've received from information. This is Stuart Schmill, who is the Dean of Admissions at a very prestigious school on the East Coast known as MIT. And you'll notice as you read this quote or think about this quote, that this really does mirror the learner attributes that we're trying to develop in the program. You'll see things like that not only are they prepared, but that they have a lot of confidence, and that's one of our attributes, that they have a good, deep subject knowledge, and then of course they can think. And again, that's one of the biggest issues that we run into today is not the availability of information, but really there's so much information. How well can we read through that and come up with our own conclusions and draw from the abundance of information that's there to find quality sources and weigh that between different influences. So one of the things that we do in order to, as a check, is we offer international exams. And the way the international exams work is that these are actually sent to the United Kingdom, and they're graded by folks who are vetted by the University of Cambridge. And so the quality control and the alignment between that assessment is not just from the United States, but it's also for all these countries around the world that are submitting their same assessments. The way we use it is that it's an international diagnostic. So I get to see how I stack up on the global scale. And also we get to see how well we've done. We get some figures back that show us how well our center does versus other school, how our school does compared to other schools in the nation. And the testing is based on students' academic strengths. The way that this works is not every student that signs up for Cambridge takes an international exam. In fact, this is based off teacher recommendations from the coursework samples that they submit or they experience throughout their class, and they promote certain students to be able to test. And the reason that is because it's an investment that the district has been willing to put forward, and the tests are pretty expensive. So we want to make sure that those that are ready and willing to test are able to do so. And those are the tests that we invest in based on what we see in their classes. Now, we've talked a lot about what Cambridge is, the general philosophy of this program, but I guess one of the big questions is, okay, well, then what? So once I'm done with my sophomore year, what options do I have afterwards? And these are the pathways. Willow Canyon is also an international baccalaureate school. And if you are interested in honors at the high school course level, then we're talking about our IB program or international baccalaureate. We supplement our IB program with some AP course offerings, but generally speaking, most of what we offer is through the IB program. And you can pursue the diploma track. We've had some of our most successful students graduate with that and win a tremendous amount of scholarships by going through that program. It's in the IB program where you can actually, depending on the admissions of different universities, you can gain college credit by passing those exams. And again, those are international exams too. So the reason IB works well with Cambridge is because they're both developed with an international, globally competitive philosophy. And so it's not as much of a leap for a Cambridge student to go into an IB course. They're somewhat familiar in the way that the programs are structured. The other option that you may notice is that you'll see that there's a partnership between the Dysart Unified School District and Rio Salado College. And what this means is that there are certain courses that we offer for what's called dual enrollment. So while they take a course in high school and they pass their high school course, they're also aligned with a community college course. So in some cases, they can actually get college credit for passing their high school course in some classes. So that is an offering that we have here at Willow Canyon as well. In some cases, we've found that we have enough offerings in dual enrollment that students can actually graduate with their associate's degree if they get through. And still one other option, and this is not as widely used, but it is a very real option for some. And even this year, we have some students taking advantage of this, and it's called an initiative called Move On When Ready. Students who complete and pass all of their Cambridge courses, or at least a minimum of them, right? These are the criteria. Um, and when I say pass, please understand that we're talking about grading on an international scale. So I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but basically in the international scale for Cambridge, they get graded from an A star all the way to a G and every letter in between. And so if they score a G or better in at least one of these courses, and this is the college readiness cut score for English, math, and one of the sciences and one of the histories, if they do that over their 2-year span, then and they take either AP, government, or an economics course, they can actually be done with high school at the end of their sophomore year. And at that point, there are partnerships with the Arizona State University. And I was just informed by our counselor that the University of Arizona has also come on board that have in the past offered preferred admissions to students who graduate with the Grand Canyon diploma, because they realize these are the kind of students that we know are going to be successful at our school. And so if some students are forward thinking and they're wanting to get started with their university coursework, they can do that at an earlier age through this option. So what does a typical pathway look like? In the left side is normally if a freshman comes into Willow Canyon, this is for math. So I'm going to start off with the more complicated because there are more options with math because of some ways that students come to us from their 8th grade year. On the far left in the blue, you'll see kind of the standard trajectory where you have the algebra sandwich with geometry in the middle. And of course, we have, you can finish with pre-calc or AP statistics, and those are some options. The normal Cambridge pathway is students test in math after their sophomore year because math for Cambridge is an integrated math. And what that means is that rather than just taking algebra or geometry, Cambridge math integrates many different math disciplines. So you're going to take and have components of statistics, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, all balled together over a 2-year span. And after their sophomore year, that's when they take their test. And depending on that test, that determines their college readiness for that score. I'm going to jump over to the far right column. And so the difference between these two options is the advanced Cambridge pathway is reserved for those students who may have taken algebra as 8th graders. And if they took high school algebra as 8th graders, then they can choose to go into the math accelerated track, which is that instead of waiting till their sophomore year to test in Cambridge, this is an accelerated Cambridge course, assuming that they have their base in algebra, their high school algebra course, they can now accelerate their path to take higher levels of math sooner. So you'll notice that in this case that they are eligible for pre-calculus as sophomores, and then they can take calculus as juniors, and then they can take another high level math as seniors. The benefit of this in the far right column is if a student happens to be one of those accelerated math students, they will have 5 math credits or 5 math courses on their transcript. And if they're interested in applying to universities out of the state, that's a very appealing mark on their transcript because it shows really a cut above what most students have in which is the 4 years of math. And of course, they're taking higher levels of math as well. So again, similar options here. It's just that everything's pushed back 1 year for that math option. English is really it's pretty straightforward in this way. It's either the regular track of English 1, 2, English 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. That's just the normal way of doing things. And then we have the honors method where if they go into Cambridge, they can go Cambridge 1, 2, 3, 4, and then of course take honors higher levels of English with their IB curriculum. Now, I did want to take a point to say is at the end of their sophomore year, if they said, you know what, I don't think I want to continue pursuing honors, they have those options too as of their junior year and senior year of whatever course offerings they want to take. But But again, they do have the options to go into honors as well.
And Joe, may I interject for a moment? Please remember that the Cambridge classes kind of slide right into the same skill set that the IB classes do, but there is the AP, the advanced placement class options as well for some of these courses. So just I wanted to throw that out there as an additional resource.
Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. And so we're kind of moving toward the final part of our presentation, but I wanted to give an example of if a student were to come in as a freshman, what might their course schedule look like? And so this is a picture of a traditional Cambridge schedule. If they were to come in, you're going to see that they have first language English, which is the English course. They have their biology, they have their world history, and I'm going to jump down, they have their math. So those are their 4 core subject areas. I threw in Cambridge Spanish because if they are thinking about university, then they're going to want to have their foreign language included there. And we have a phenomenal Spanish teacher that does a great job with our students. And also what gets tricky right here is the electives. So a student does have the option for an elective. If they're interested in art, we do have a Cambridge art course that they can choose to pursue. They can also take a PE class. Some students who want to have room in their schedule, many of our students come to us having taken PE online over the summer so that they get that credit out of the way, which leaves room in their schedule to take other things. And then of course, you'll see athletics here in the middle. Typically for freshmen, this may happen their second semester because it's normally aligned with varsity athletics, and depending on the proficiency of that student, in their athletic prowess, that kind of determines where they get placed. And so those athletic periods are designed for students who are likely going to be competing at or near the varsity level. So that is kind of what all this is done here. Think of 6 hour in this case as kind of a flex period of being able to choose either an elective, whether it's art or PE or another elective. Maybe if they're interested in CTE, we do have some CTE course offerings that they could pursue at that time too. So I'm not saying that this is how it all lays out. These periods, these first hour, second hour, they won't necessarily have these classes during those same periods, but this is again just an example of how that may look. And the only difference then between, you'll notice that I highlighted it here, is that if a student comes in with the accelerated math, rather than taking Math 1, 2, they actually go directly in as freshmen into that Math 3, 4, and that's how they pursue the accelerated track with math if they have their algebra, high school algebra out of the way. And just in case you were interested, you can see that this is what their sophomore, they maintain the Cambridge track. You can see that this is what their sophomore course schedule would be. They would take another year of English, would be English IGC Lit. And by the way, this is just a fancy acronym for a Cambridge course. So when you see that, you're like, what's IGC? It really, in layman's terms, means Cambridge. And then, of course, we have our chemistry, our second year of science, American history. Of course, if you take Spanish 1, 2, likely 3, 4. And then again, here's the traditional method. And then here's at the end of during their sophomore year, they can pursue maybe a pre-calculus option, honors pre-calculus, or some different things, and leaving rooms in their schedule for that. Okay, Wendy, before I move on, are there any questions that have popped up in the thread or that you have seen?
Sorry about that. I had myself muted. I had somebody ask specifically about can their student take world history their sophomore year? And of course, the answer is yes. Every year I teach the modern world history class. And so I do have a couple of sophomores each year. The only thing that happens though is that if you're interested in the Grand Canyon qualifier, it may knock them off track because they have to take all 7 of the Cambridge exams in order to qualify for that. As Joe mentioned before, you have to pass the freshman English class with a B. You have to pass one of the histories, American or world history, but you have to take both. The same for science with biology. You have to take both, but you only need to pass one. Then you need to pass literature, and then you need to pass the math exam. So if you're looking towards that, that will knock them off schedule, because then in their junior year, it will be a situation where, well, if I'm looking to go into IB, then I need to be in the IB history classes, and so you're not going to be going back to try and take the Cambridge exam for that class, or if you're looking at AP as an option as well. So there are different things, different ways to look at it, and these, it's going to vary per family, per student. That track is where they graduate as a sophomore. Yes, they could graduate as a sophomore. It's a possibility. They don't have to. A lot of parents, even though being a Grand Canyon qualifier would make them eligible to finish early, a lot of parents, they don't want to send their babies off to university at such an early age. And, they want them to build the confidence to go into the more advanced programs and to continue to build on those skills. It's not necessary that they do that, but it is an option, as Joe said.
Thank you, Wendy. So we will address some of the other questions here at the end, but we want to get through the remainder. This is part of the fun stuff, is that we get to brag about some of our kids that we've had before. These are just from a sample of the kids that we have had come through the program. Maybe some of them look familiar to you, maybe not, but most of these students are off to university, and they're doing fantastic things where they are at some of the best schools in the nation. These students, in their time as freshmen and sophomores, some of them boasted the top score in the nation in a particular subject area. And they are holding certificates of distinction or certificates of merit, which again are relegated to really the elite testers in that model. So we're very proud of these students that we've had come through. Here's another list of students that we've had promoted. And again, every year we just have a crop of tremendous kids that boast some tremendous results in their international scores. So we're always proud. Anytime we get to show them off, we're like proud parents being able to boast about them. So just in short, and really we're kind of at the tail end of our presentation. So why Cambridge? Just as a review, remember, it prepares students for their future, and that's one of the big things that we're after with the learner attributes and the skills that we're developing with them taking Cambridge courses. That they do get honors credit on a 5.0 scale. So this is how some students graduate with ridiculous numbers like 4.8 or 5.0s or whatever the case is, because they are awarded for taking a higher level course. They're awarded that extra point on their grade point average. And so that's where you get that 5.0 scales. And that's what we call a weighted scale, but that's where that falls into play. And that starts by them, when we talk about class rank and where they go in class rank, it's because many of these students have taken those weighted courses throughout their high school tenure. We offer a school within a school model. So students who take Cambridge, we keep Cambridge with Cambridge as best we can. And it's really impressive to see how that group begins to gel and they start to get to know each other because they see each other. So within the larger campus of Willow Canyon, you have about a third of our freshmen roughly, or a third of our school, if you will, just kind of in these Cambridge programs that start to see each other because they're taking the same kind of classes and they're collaborating together. And it's really a special bond that many of them come through and are able to take. Of course, we discussed the multiple pathways of what they can pursue after their 10th grade year when they're done. And one last thing I wanted to share is just boast about our staff a little bit. Our teachers, every Cambridge teacher has been trained in their Cambridge coursework of their subject area. And not only have they been trained with their introductory level, but teachers, we try to keep them fresh. And so we have many teachers that are currently undergoing an additional round of training just so that they can stay fresh in their subject area with the latest techniques for how to teach their subject so that they can maintain their effectiveness to hand off to our students. So with that said, I think that's a good time to maybe I can get back to the chat here and answer any questions. So this is a good time to keep them. And again, before I jump off, I did want to share our information. So if you are wanting to, if you think of things or would like to make contact with me outside of it, you'll see that my office number is here and it's linked to my cell phone. So I'm likely to pick it up. But again, my name is Joe Martinez, and here's my email. Feel free to throw it my way, or if you want to speak with Ms. Getches, her information is down here, and she's our exams officer. She's responsible for tracking our students and registering them for the assessments every year, which we're doing currently. So